Good afternoon, everyone. So I can see a number of people joining in already for the session. Okay, let me introduce myself. I am Javeria Fatma Qureshi from the IBA Career Development Center. I would like to welcome you all to the panel discussion organized by the IBA Career Development Center and English Biscuit Manufacturers Private Limited. The topic of this session is transition into the corporate world. The theme of the session is networking and interpersonal communication, job application and interviews, and challenges faced after graduation. We have already collated some key questions received from our students on our theme for today. So we won't be taking any questions from the audience. It is requested to all the viewers to mute their video and audio for today. We have with us three panelists from the HR team of EBM Pakistan. We have Manager HR Fahad Javed, Talent Acquisition Lead Ms. Sehrish Salim, and Learning and Development Lead Ms. Haya Nawab. So my question to each of the panelists is to please tell us a bit about yourself and your corporate journey. Let's start it with Fahad.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was just asking if all three of our panelists can introduce themselves to the audience.
Sure. So I'll just start off. My name is Sehrish, and I have done my bachelor's from Institute of Business Management with majors in HR. And then I have experience in different HR functions such as operations, performance management, talent acquisition, and business partnering from ICI Pakistan Limited. At ICI, I had exposure of two industries, which is the chemicals and the pharma industry. And currently, I'm working as a talent acquisition lead at EBM. And EBM is a great place to work at. It's an amazing place. It's growing exponentially, and we are currently dealing with two portfolios, that is biscuits and cake.
So let's move to Haya. Haya or Fahad, anyone, if you can share a bit about yourself and your corporate journey.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone. It's a great pleasure to be part of this webinar as I am an IBA grad myself. So it's really exciting to be part of such an honorable panel. So a little bit about myself. I have done my bachelor's in from IBA. I have a double majors in economics and mathematics, but I have pursued HR because I have great passion in it. And that's what my aim is to be as well, to be an HR generalist and a professional. In terms of the fields that I've experienced in HR are basically operations, compensation and benefits, and organizational development. And I've been associated with the past organizations such as HubCo and Assessment Fund. And right now I am the learning and development lead at EBM. And it's an interesting journey so far that I've been part of EBM, and I'm continuing to learn every day.
Right. From IBA in 2011, and I have worked in organizations. I worked in organizations such as KE. Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You're audible.
Right. So I graduated from IBA in 2011, and over the course of these years, I worked in companies like RFC, Royal Fleas and Campina, HO, House of Habib, KE. I have experience in various fields of HR, such as talent acquisition, OD, organization development, training, business partnering. I also worked as a consultant for roughly a year. Currently, I'm working at EBM in the capacity of HR manager, HR plant manager in Hattar. I'm based in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where they have one of their plants. And mashallah, so far it has been a great journey in HR. It's been an enlightening experience, and hopefully going to be the same in the future.
Interesting. Thank you, all three of you. Now the next question goes to each one of you, and this is that how should one make the transition from university life to corporate life?
I'll take that up. The transition from university life to corporate life is never easy. It's a game changer. What routine you had, what activities you had during your university, they were completely different, and it was totally dependent on you on how to proceed, on how to go about. But when you're working in a corporate environment, it changes drastically. You are working under a unified agenda. You are working with teams. You have a culture that supports you. So it's a multifaceted factors that are impacting your performance, not just how you read or what you write, and everything comes together, and that's a pressure. That's a pressure job. Transitioning is never easy. However, how can you make that easier for you? You can develop a network where you start knowing people. I believe that the ideal way to transit, because you don't have a lot of experience to put on your resume, you don't have a lot of things that you can sell. So it's good to know people who can put you there. It's not about nailing the interview. It's about getting your foot in the door, and that's where these things come on. How you do your internships, how you manage your corporate projects, and how many people know you already. How well do you know them? So I think it's important to cultivate that network and getting that foot in the door before you even start to transition to that corporate environment.
Okay, nice. So our first theme is networking and interpersonal communication. My question goes to Fahad again. So if you can please discuss when one should start building their LinkedIn profile and how important it is when it comes to making transition into the corporate world.
Ideally, I believe that all third years should have their corporate LinkedIn profile. The reason being is that most of the programs that are run through, most of the MT management training programs that are done by corporate are run through LinkedIn. So you need to be present there to ensure that you are aware of what's happening in the world, what's happening in the corporate world, and then plan accordingly. Since you won't have a lot of things to put on your resume, you need to make sure that your academic obviously is there, your extracurricular activities, and your projects, your internships, they are the highlights of your life so far when it comes to professional environment. So highlight those activities, highlight those things, connect with people, understand what's going on in the corporate world, and all third years before they start their internships should have a good, solid LinkedIn profile.
Okay. So my next question goes to Serish. Serish, can you please share different ways in which junior and senior year students can start networking in the corporate world?
So networking, I believe, can start from the get-go. And ideally for all students, networking should start within the university. Now, when you think about it, okay, how can you network within the university? It starts within the class that you take. So networking can be you need to be connected with your professors and students that are sitting with you in the class, and they can be literally a valuable asset for you. And when you ask me how, now, for example, your professors just do not have really good insight about the industry, but they're also very well connected with industrial professionals around. So, for example, any vacancy comes up and you need fresh graduates. So the first thing that we usually do, we ask our professors that you want to recommend someone. So that is one thing that's the first step that you should do in terms of networking. Other than that, I would say create your LinkedIn profile. You need to start connecting with industry professionals around you. See where your alumni are sitting at the moment and map them out. See where the alumni are doing and what are they doing, in which companies they are working in at the moment. And then I would also suggest that take your corporate internship projects very seriously. Use avenues such as corporate connect sessions, career fairs as a as an avenue where you can just not only share your resume with people but also connect with them. And it's great to see students coming to you and asking, "Hey, just not ke, oh, koi vacancy hai," but you can also ask them about what is the company up to, what is the culture like at a particular company, what are the kind of roles that are offered in a certain company. So I believe networking starts from the get-go, and it is very, very important that everyone should, focus on that from the start of their career.
Thank you, Serish. Okay, this is one of the most important questions coming ahead for all the students, and that is about email etiquettes. What are the do's and don'ts of professional email communication? Fahad, can you highlight something on this?
Let me tell you something. I've got around 10 years of experience, and one of the key challenges that I face when I'm looking at communications is the way they communicate, way they talk, uh, and that creates a lot of impact. Being a graduate of IB, I know people. Students are taught business communication and speech communication, but it's not as simple as that. So what you do when you're writing professional emails is you need to keep it simple. The idea is to say what you want to say and just to communicate that thought that you have. You don't need to make it complicated. Don't need and the titles as well. How you use your initials. I mean, don't need to address as sir. Don't need to address as sahab. Whatever. Keep it. Use name. That's completely professional. If you can use 3 words, use two. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't demand something. Request them. And even when you're writing a really angry email, I get it. A lot of people in the corporate world want to write, get really frustrated and everything, but never write an impolite email or a scathing email, because that's a documented email that you're writing. It's a document, and that can be used. So don't write. Always be polite. And another thing that I feel a lot of time happens in the corporate environments, people keep CCing people, tons of people, and they keep on increasing. Keep people only in CC when if they can add value or if they need to be informed. Otherwise, there is no use of keeping them in CC. Then obviously don't use exclamation marks. Keep neutral fonts. Keep neutral colors. And most importantly, don't translate. Don't translate your communications from Urdu to English. You need to understand that it's not as simple as that. You need to develop your own sentences. You need to develop that. If you're talking about a long email where you have to give a plan to your superior, write in bullet points, tell them what steps they're going to be, and if you want a decision on that, ask for it. The person who is receiving your emails would never understand unless you write what you want them to do. So you need to ask for that decision. And if you're presenting a business case, you present a summary. You present what this data led to. Don't give the data out on that email. That's just too much. So just present a summary, present a conclusion, and say this is what you want, and you can attach the details on that later. And see, most importantly, if you're angry and if you want to write something, put a hold on that. Write it and then reevaluate it after some time to see how will it be perceived. And imagine that you are the receiving party, so you need to understand that the one time you write that email, it impacts the person might not get the context. So you need to be aware of what you're writing and then read it before you send it. So remove all those errors or whatever there are. So you need to again just take it from a person who is going to receive that email, being that other person's shoes. And yeah, so but this is very small basic things, but a lot of people miss those and just write what they're thinking. So keep those in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. What are the different ways of building interpersonal and communication skills before entering into the corporate world? Haya, can you please shed light on this? Haya, are you there?
Yes, actually, it was not letting me unmute.
Okay.
Okay, so I feel this is a very, very, I think, important question, not just for the graduates over here at IBA, but even as general office colleagues that we are, that interpersonal skills are very, very essential, even as you start your career and even in the middle of your career and even when you're ending your career. It's very important. And the important thing to remember is that we are building our interpersonal skills since childhood. We do it subconsciously. It's happening anyways. What we need to focus on is actually know its importance and make a focused effort towards it. So there are three major things that we can do to build our interpersonal skills. Is that the first thing is that you have to develop your own self. You have to self reflect, know your weaknesses, know your strengths, and get a feedback from your peers, get feedback from your family, get feedback from your friends, and understand that how can one person develop his own self first. Then the second part is that you have to firstly focus on the basic interpersonal and communication skills. As Fahad pointed out that in email etiquette, it's such a basic concept, but since it's so basic and it's it's such a it's a beginning start, people don't focus on it as much. So in interpersonal skills also, you're supposed to focus on the basics, such as listen, just don't hear. Okay. When you're talking, your voice should be clear. The messaging that you're given, it should be clear. It should not be very, very complicated. The language that you use, the tone that you use should be very clear, very concise. So these are some basic interpersonal skills that one should really focus on. Then the third part is actually the advanced interpersonal skills. The advanced interpersonal skills are basically getting to know the barriers to communication. So there are two major barriers to communication. First is physical, and the second one is emotional. The physical barrier in interpersonal skills is basically when there is a noise element in the room. Okay, you should know how to, when you're communicating to the other person, you should make sure that if it's a very important conversation, there should be no noise in the room, there should be no distractions in the room. So this is something that you can look into. The other part is the emotional barrier. The emotional barrier is basically the certain biasness or the certain negative politics going on in the room, or in the discussion that you're having. So you're supposed to know on how to redirect your conversation and get to the point and get your point across. So these are certain tips and tricks in building your interpersonal skills when you're entering towards the corporate environment.
Okay, thank you, Haya. Okay, my question goes to Serish and Haya, both of you. What kind of certifications, skills, and trainings one must have before entering into the corporate world? Like, please explain in light of three main disciplines: marketing, HR, and finance.
Sure. So I think I'll go first, and then Saresh, you can, add on to that. So I feel that certifications and trainings are very important when even you're entering in the workforce, and it's also really emphasized here in our company also, and also other companies, that you should not just focus on your own role at that point, but you should also make a ambition towards getting certifications and trainings. Now, if I talk about HR, there is a certification called SHRM, Strategic Human Resource Management. That is one certification a lot of people tell all of us HR professionals as well to get in our resume also, and in our professional lives also, because that really helps us understand the basic core concepts of HR. Two other courses that can help specific HR professionals are getting really into strategic HR business partnering, and the other is HR analytics. These are two really growing fields right now, not just internationally, but also in Pakistan. And this is something that one can explore. If we talk about marketing specifically, there are a lot of courses in marketing and trainings and certification which one can do. One is content marketing, the other is SEO, search engine optimization. Then there is then there is basically analytics and social media courses that one can look into. So these are certain courses which marketing professionals can look at.
I think I would totally agree with what Haya is saying. And what I see that when you look at someone's resume or CV, right? So one, as a recruiter, when you see it, always gives you an additional brownie points when you see that someone has, additional certification or skills that they have, other than just their normal degree that is there. And I feel what I have seen that during COVID, a lot of students have taken up a lot of certifications online as well. So you can easily get certifications from Udemy, Coursera, or Linda. And I really, really appreciate candidates who come by and they have multiple certifications with them, which basically shows their interest in a specific function that they want to excel in. Right? For example, if someone has an interest in HR function, if they do additional certification, which really shows that they really want to know more about the specific process or program, right? As far as finance is concerned, now Haya's already covered HR and marketing. And finance is concerned, we usually prefer people with accounting and finance background. And it actually gives you an additional brownie points if you have certifications such as ACCA or CFA. So yeah.
So now, Haya and Serish, if you could kindly, tell our audience that how should one make the transition from university life to corporate life?
Okay. I feel the transition will become easy for you once you accept that yes, you need to adapt to different changes, different sort of environments. Because when you're in university, you hang out with people with similar interests and hobbies and similar objectives in life as well. But in corporate world, the entire scenario changes because now you're working with different kind of people with different walks of life. So the first thing in order to excel or in order to adjust in a corporate world is firstly that you adapt to those changes. And you need to also understand that you may not know answers of everything, right? You may have the highest degree of education, but no, you wouldn't know answers to every query that is there, and that is completely fine. As an employer, what we look at is basically someone who is generally very curious, right? Curiosity, and someone with that sort of attitude who's here to learn. So, fresh graduates usually bring fresh perspectives to the company and ideas to the company. And one more thing that I would like to add is basically your growth is something that is in your hands, right? And even though your line manager will be there to give you guidance, but then again, you need to chalk out where do you see yourself and where do you want to be. So be very clear about your objectives. So you need to have a very straight plan in your head in order to go about it. Yeah.
I completely agree with Serish. It's very, very important as when you're entering into the corporate world, you're supposed to know that it's a new journey that you're taking on. And you're supposed to be very, very adaptable because generally you have to fit into their culture. They don't need to do that for you. So that's very important, first thing. The second part is that you need to chalk out a plan for yourself in terms of, when I was entering into my corporate environment, what I did is that I said that, okay, in about 2 years I want to become this, in about 3 4 years I want to become this. And what it does is that it creates a certain direction in your mind. So if something it does, there is a certain hurdle or a challenge that you face in your corporate environment, you know exactly what to do. You can, talk to your mentor, you can talk to your colleagues over there, you can talk to your peers and friends on what to do exactly. So this is very and also again agreeing with Sergis's point that you make your life yourself. You chalk out your plan, you make your successes yourself. Nobody is going to do it for you. But what you can do is, in the corporate world, as soon as you enter, make sure that you network with everyone, even with the seniors. That is one important part that usually the new joiners who come in, they miss out. They are usually in a group, and that's how they network. But you should also network with your seniors. I think that gives you a great insight and perspective going on in your life.
Thank you, Haya and Serish. Okay, number two, the theme number two is job applications and interviews before and after graduating. So my question goes to Fahad, that what are the key factors one must consider when applying for a job?
Okay, so you see, a job when you're a fresh graduate, most of the CVs, almost all the fresh CVs look the same. They have got their education, they have got their extracurricular activities, they have got their projects and internships and everything. So you need to understand that you need to use those internships that you have done to find out what you really want to do. Internship, I did my first. I remember I did my first internship in a bank and realized that that's not where I want to be. Bank didn't suit me as a culture, as an industry. And then I moved on to I did a second internship in Telenon, where I worked in the HR department and instantly fell in love with it. And that's when I realized that I want to be in HR. So if you need to use those internships to find out what you want, what you really like, what kind of work do you see yourself doing? Because what is the common perception among fresh graduates is that they can easily switch over. That's not true. Don't apply to jobs. First of all, don't apply to jobs that, for example, in an MNC you find a marketing job but you really want to do HR. Don't apply for that job. Don't apply for a job that you wouldn't want to be in the field of. So apply to your relevant jobs, apply to where you what you want to be. Use those internships, use those projects, use talk to your seniors and ask them about which field suits me more. Where can I work? Where can I add value? The one thing you asked about the key factors, but what I want to say is the one thing that you shouldn't care about is money. Don't switch a job because of money. Your first 2 years, you need to learn, learn, and learn. You need to find a job where a structured job where you can understand why something happens, why it happens, किस वजह से ये policy या process in place आया था, इसके reason क्या है पीछे. So what you need to do in your first job is to find structure so that you can understand that and apply later on. You don't want to go experimenting on your first job. So, but within a structured organization, you can easily understand that. And again, I would like to reiterate that what you need to do is look for a job which teaches you. The first 2 years at least, it teaches you, which makes you learn things, which makes you do things. Don't ever go for money in the first job.
Right, I agree. Okay, now this one of the questions is very important. And how can one customize their CV or resume for applying to different jobs?
Right. So you see, again, like I said, you need to be sure where you want to be. You need to be sure what kind of job that you're applying for, and you need to understand that. Wait. Wait. Hold on. Sorry, my system locked down. So you need to understand that the job that you're applying for, what does it entail, what kind of people are they looking for. You can easily get that if you have a good networking, if in a good network, you know people around, so you can easily get what the culture of that company is, what kind of job they're looking for, and then you need to tweak your resume. And it's not a lot because आप लोग के पास as fresh graduates, you don't have a lot of things to write on a resume anyways. So what can you focus on actually? You can focus on your leadership skills when you are writing your extracurricular activities, and your internships, if it's relevant to that industry, highlight that a bit more. Your corporate projects where you are writing about, and you have done tons of them. As an IB graduate myself, I know we have done tons of projects in every field that there is. So if you are applying for a particular industry, so highlight those projects in that industry. If you're applying for a particular job, highlight the projects that you did in that field. अगर HR में करूँ, तो I will highlight my HR projects. If I'm looking for, say, in an FMCG industry, I would highlight the projects that I did for that industry. So you tweak those small things that you can, so that they know that you know more than a layman, and they can relate to you more. So tweak those things while applying for different jobs.
Thank you, Fahad. Okay, what is the impact of one's personality or behavioral traits when giving an interview? Serish, can you please answer
This
to
is
this?
like one of my favorite questions. So thank you, Javeria, for asking this question. I feel, as a fresh graduate, when you come in, you're completely like a fresh slate, right? And obviously, you do not have as much experience, but the thoda bahut aapka internship experience hota hai. But what usually employers look at is that whether the person is culture fit. Now, this is one term that everyone has heard of, right? Okay, we look at people who are culture fit, who are our culture fit, right? So what is a culture fit? Culture fit are people who have certain behaviors and values that are in line with the core values and culture of the company. And, organizations are looking for people who have certain behaviors that will help them to do their job effectively, right? So it's very difficult to see those behaviors from someone's resume or CV. So how do you show or exhibit those behaviors? And that's the best part, is those behaviors are exhibited in interview. And now the students will think, कि किस तरीके से हम अपने behaviors exhibit करेंगे. That's why we have behavioral based interviews, right? So situation based, the STAR model that we spoke about. So basically you have to explain to the panel or to the interviewer or to the employer that how did you react in certain situations. And that basically shows what sort of behaviors that you usually show. Now, for example, if you can talk about a situation when you were in a conflict with a stakeholder. So that basically shows how you can manage conflicts. And you can also talk about a project that you had to lead. So that will basically exhibit your leadership skills. So it's very important to tell exactly what sort of behaviors that you exhibit in different kind of situations that are thrown at you. Now, when I relate this with what is culture fit for EBM, if I relate it to my organization, I would say culture fit is someone who has an infinite mindset, someone who likes to collaborate, someone who has agility to learn, who shows initiative, who has a good attitude, someone who is willing to stretch themselves, right? So this is culture fit for EBM. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is quite interview centric, and I would like Sehesh and Fahad to answer this. There are approximately 3 to 4 interview rounds in most companies. So please explain the likely purpose of each round, like HR, technical, HOD, CEO, and how can one prepare for each?
Suresh, you want to go first?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so basically, the sort of interview rounds differ from company to company. So we won't say that there's a specific set of interview rounds that will happen in every company. It differs from company to company, like I said. So usually the first round is with the HR person and the line manager, and the line manager does the functional assessment, and HR does the culture fit check. So that is the first round of interview that happens. And when you move onwards towards the HOD or the CEO level, now they look at the candidate very holistically because they know they have firm belief in their line managers, and they know कि functionally काम तो करना आता हो. That's why they have reached to a certain stage of interview. So, so what does an HOD or a CEO looks at? They look at potential, and they look at whether an individual has a potential to grow within the organization or to take up leadership roles. So there are certain attributes that every company has in their mind, and they feel, okay, this person will come and they will perform well. But do they show those attributes or those sort of set of behaviors where I feel that yes, I can plug them in future leadership roles? So that is something that the HOD and the CEO level looks at. Fahad, you can add on to this.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. So she's right. Every interview it differs from company to company, but and every interview is different. So the first time that you're going to sit for interview is probably with an HR person, and like she said, HR is going to evaluate you on the cultural fit, where the previous question Sarish was telling you about what is actually cultural fit. And then there's further technical interviews. So what you need to do is you need to prepare for each of them accordingly. You need to understand कि जब आप cultural की बात करते हैं, it's about behaviors, it's about values, it's about how you present yourself. That's all comes down to values, and that's the way you need to be prepared for. You need to be aware of their websites and the values, what they have, and the vision and the mission, everything. You need to be prepared for that for the HR interview. While being in the technical interview, they would be talking about what you know, what have you learned, what have been your projects, kya kiya, kis tarah kiya, kyun kiya, and all that. So those are the two types of interview that they will check. But be very keep that in mind that the company will not hire you if you are a cultural fit, if you're not a cultural fit, or a technical fit. The reason being is that cultural fit is more important than technical fit, is because culture to आप नहीं सिखा सकते. That टेक्निकल फिट तो बिकॉज यूर फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट टेक्निकल फिट तो मैं आप लोगों को साल 1.5 साल 2 साल में वैसे ही समझ में आ जाएगा. सो दैट्स नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट. What's important is you need to present yourself in a way in these interviews where you are more culturally fit to the organization. But for a fresh graduate, you need to understand that a lot of companies, when they hire for their management training program, they are looking at your communication, how quickly you can learn, the learning curve, your adaptability and out of box thinking. They're not hiring run of the mill employees. They're not hiring lateral employees, because they're hiring someone who has the potential, like she said, like Sarah said, to take on leadership positions. So what they're looking for is that potential, and that's how they judge this potential for a fresh graduate. But अगर आप complicate करते हो, but down the line, when you're experienced, when you're 5-6 years experience under your belt, then it becomes technical and cultural fit.
Thank you. My next question is for Serish. Serish, what are the most common interview questions one must know and be ready for?
So I wouldn't say that every company has a mandatory set of questions that they will ask, but yes, they're commonly used questions that every company does ask. Is that, for example, the common questions can be, tell me something interesting about yourself which is not mentioned on your resume. What are your career aspirations? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Have you ever been in a conflicting situation, and what did you go about it? Are you a leader or a team player? So these are a set of questions that people do ask in an interview, but I think the emphasis should be just be prepared. Be prepared. I would say just read your resume or CV, know what you have actually written on your resume and CV. And because usually what people do, they write so many things And जब उससे सवाल पूछा जाता है ना, okay, what did you do in a certain project or internship, they don't know. So you need to read exactly what you've written, because that is one point in those 30 minutes जब आपका interview चल रहा होता है, the panel or the interviewer can literally catch कि हाँ ये कहाँ हमें सही बोल रहा है, कहाँ इसने exaggerate करके लिखा है. Other than that, I would really appreciate one more thing for the graduates to learn is that जब interview हो रहा है, it's a two-way communication. They need to understand it's a two-way communication. The first entire stretch of the interview is for the panel or the interviewer to ask and to gauge the person in terms of their functional assessment and the culture fit, right? Like Fahad said. But in the end, when the panel or the interviewer actually sends you, okay, do you have any questions? I would really, really request people to ask questions. It is very important to ask questions, because that is your place, that platform where you can know more about, you can ask more about the company, the culture, the position that you've been interviewed for. So usually a lot of people are fixated towards asking salary related questions. That is completely fine. You should ask the question, salary related questions, but your priority should be asking more about, okay, tell me what are the growth prospects in your company, what are the training avenues, what do you do for personal development of your employees, what is the culture like. So these are the questions that people should ask at the end of the interview.
So most of the young professionals and fresh graduates have this question in their mind, that how to conduct yourself in an interview. So I want all three of you to answer this.
Okay, so I'll start, and maybe then Fahad and Sehrish can add on. First thing, the first important thing that a person needs to do when in an interview is to rehearse first before coming to an interview. As Sehrish pointed out, usually there are frequently asked questions in interviews. Tell me something about yourself, strengths, and what are your strengths and weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? These are all very frequently asked questions, and in every interview, this is asked. What you can do is you can rehearse your answers. You can practice in front of a mirror. That usually helps a lot in an interview. The second thing is that you can research about the company. This is also something that Sarish talked about in the last question. But what you can something additional that you can do is, while researching about the company, is also researching about who is taking your interview. So usually when you get a call of the interview, they just tell you, the GM is going to be taking your interview, senior manager HR will be taking your interview. They'll be asking, they'll be letting you know that. So you can go on LinkedIn, see their profiles, see what achievements what they have, what achievements they have, what sort of institutes they've gone to. Maybe you find a commonality between you and the interviewer. So that also helps in an interview. The third most important part in an interview is how your body language is. If you are slouching on the chair, you're fidgeting with your hair, and you're looking like really tired, and you're looking really lazy, then obviously the first impression is lost. And as the common saying goes, first impression is the last impression. So that is a very important thing. The other important thing is how you dress up. Even if it's it's your first interview, you're supposed to dress really, really well, because that leaves a very long lasting impression on your interviewer. They see that you're interested in the interview, you're interested in your career and your job. And the last thing that one can do is, basically, as Sarish pointed out in her last question, is also that you always ask a question at the end at the end of your interview. The second half of the interview is for you to ask the questions, is for you to know about the culture. And maybe at that point you do understand from their answers, from the interviewer's answers, that maybe this job is not cut out for you. Maybe you're not interested in this job role. Maybe you're not interested in the culture of the company. So that gives you the insight as well. So I feel these are certain tips and tricks that can help you in an interview, and I think Fahad and Sarish can add more to it as well.
Right. I actually think Haya has covered almost everything. A couple of things. One of the key things that irritates an interviewer is that always be on time, and that's something which it's something which supposed to be there. It's never there. Never. Okay. So always be on time, be punctual, and then secondly, always show up for interview once you have committed to come for an interview. I see that as a problem with IBA graduates and LUMS graduates and most graduates right now, is that they never show up. always show up for interview. If you're committed to show up for interview, always be there. Haya said, dress sharply. That's your first impression. And once I remember once I was interviewing, I was sitting for a management training interview, and this guy came in flip flops and jeans and a slashed t-shirt. I'm not even joking. I'm serious. And we obviously had to not select him, right? So that's important. You need to be dressed very sharply. That the person, you just need to stand out. You need to find those little points in, because all of them are the same, from the same university. All of them have the same GPA, same post, and everything. These are the small things that make you stand out. Then obviously know your company. I said that already. Okay, so don't try too hard in an interview. Don't try to sell yourself too hard. Be natural. Be try to have a conversation. Don't say मैंने बहुत कुछ ये कर लिया. Don't try to brag and oversell yourself, because interviews will always catch you on that. And they're right that बहुत ज़्यादा आप जब लिखते हो अपने profile पे, and then they start asking the small things and you don't know the answer to them, that looks bad. Keep your resume short and crisp. Always, this is just not for fresh graduates. Always keep your resume short and crisp, and never lie in an interview. People will always come. Fresh graduates would always come to in a panel and say मैंने ये projects किए. अगले बंदे से पूछा मैंने भी ये projects किए. तीसरे से पूछा मैंने भी ये किए. I mean, how many people can you have in a team? Come on. So, and then you figure it out. We ask counter question and you figure it out who actually did the work. And trust me, the person who said he did this and wasn't there is never going to get selected. So never lie in his resumes. Interviews are smart enough. Trust me, they are. That they're going to figure it out. कि आपने क्या सवाल पूछा है. And then one more thing, this is something which I learned the hard way. Never talk bad about a department. For example, if someone asks you, why finance? Why not finance? I mean, you're a finance job. Maybe you have done suppose. Why not finance? And you start bad mouthing about that department. This happened to me once while in an interview. I bad mouthed about department. The department HOD was sitting in front. I didn't know that. So understand that. Don't bad mouth. Maybe that person is right in front of you, is from that department. So don't do that. If you are, and this is important, if you're nervous, the first time when I was sitting in an interview, if you're nervous and your hands are shaking, put them on your knees. Hide them. It's okay. Don't worry about it. First interviews are tough. You need to get experience as you go around, but don't worry about that. Put the hands under the table where they can't see it. It's okay. But again, and I would like to end with, never lie. Again, never lie during an interview, because they will always see through it. That's all from me. Serish?
Yeah. So exactly, I agree with both the panelists here. And one thing that I would like to add is that you need to rehearse, like Haya said, you need to read exactly what you have written on your resume and see what sort of projects that you have worked on, what sort of internships that you have done, and know more about the company. It's so embarrassing sometimes, even for us, like I've been to interviews and sometimes you don't know much about the company. So that basically, it's a learning avenue where you understand कि जब आप interview पे जा रहे हो, at least know about the company, see what they do, look into their industry as well, know about the job role that they're offering. So these are the few things that you need to look into. And one more thing that I would like to add is, it's very important as a person going for an interview, you need to make eye contact with the interviewer. You can't look at the ceiling or the ground or anywhere else. Look into the eye of the interviewer. That exhibits confidence. That you are confident. When you're nervous, you're gonna look around and fidget a little and look here and there. But it's good to make that sort of eye contact. And I think one more thing that I would like to add as well is that, for example, sometimes the panel or the interviewers, they ask you certain questions, and for 1 second you don't know uska jawab kya hai. So you can just politely ask them, give me 2 minutes and I'll get back to you. So you don't have to just, for example, if an interviewer is asking you a question and aap fauran bolna shuru kar de, nahi, you can think about it. You can take time. It's completely fine. The interviewer understands. They will be like, acha, the person is taking 2 minutes to think about it. And then you can make that answer in your head and then, say it out loud. So, yeah.
So my next question is about digital interviews. Like, digital interviews are the norm. So how to prepare differently for digital interviews?
Well, I think I can start, and maybe Fahad and Serish can add on. I feel digital interviews are not very much different than physical interviews, because even the interview makes sure that it's taken very seriously, and right now in this COVID situations, this was the norm. digital and online interviews was the norm that was going on. So it's not very much different. But one thing that can be a little different is in terms of rehearsing. So first, when I said that when you are going in for a physical interview, you can rehearse in front of the mirror. But in digital interviews, what you can do is you can take a recording of yourself and see how you're coming on camera. Sometimes it's very important, and sometimes even for me or someone else also who really into giving online sessions or training sessions, it's very difficult for us as well on how we are appearing online. So that is one thing that can be a little different for digital interviews. One other thing is that you have to make sure that where you're sitting, it's the right place where you're giving the interview, giving the digital interview. It's supposed to be a very quiet place. It's supposed to be properly lit, and the background is supposed to be very, it's supposed to be cleared, not lots of any distraction at the back of because what happens is that when the interviewer is talking to you, he or she can get distracted, and then the focus will not be on you. So that's one important thing. And the other important thing is internet connectivity. So if in the middle of the interview, something happens, or let's suppose even your battery dies, that gives off a very bad impression to the interviewer, because that shows that you are not serious about the interview. So I feel these are certain things which you can look into when you're giving it the digital interview. And maybe Sarish, you can add on something.
So I would say that exactly what Haya said, completely agree to her with her viewpoint on this. I would say just be prepared. When you go for a physical interview, you go to the venue at least 15 minutes prior, right? So why don't you set up that entire setup at your house when you're giving a digital interview? Make sure that the internet is working fine. You're sitting in a room which is quiet and peaceful. Um, your the light of the room is adequate, so that you are visible. And also just make sure that there are no additional noises that the interviewer, like she said, the interviewer can hear, because that it becomes really distracting. And also keep a glass of water with yourself. Now, for example, while you're giving a digital interview, you get a dry cough, right? So you can't just get up and go get water for yourself, but just be prepared. And I would say dress very formally, because funny incident, like sometimes I remember in few previous organizations, people would ask, yeah, why don't you stand up, and the person would not be dressed up formally in a digital interview. So just try to not get into such embarrassing situations, but just be prepared as if you are giving a physical interview. And this is, like Haya said, this is the new norm, because due to COVID, I think in EBM all interviews were digitally taken. We took all interviews on Teams. So yeah. And Fahad, can you add something?
Right. Yeah, both of you have covered about the same thing regarding the digital aspect of it. It's quite challenging for an interviewer as well. I'll tell you that it's quite challenging for interviewer as well to us to clearly assess the candidate. क्योंकि आप you aren't able to assess a lot of time body language आपकी जिस तरह आप बैठे हुए जिस तरह आप बात कर रहे हैं, it adds a lot of value. और पर्सनल फिजिकल जब आप इंटरव्यू के जाते हैं it really matters. बट यहाँ पर मसला होता है कि आप अपने आप को असेस जो इंटरव्यू आपको सही तरह असेस नहीं कर पाता based on how much energy you have, how much positivity you have, how do you respond to questions. Obviously it's for video, but it's not the same thing. All areas जहाँ पर आप अपने आप को you can make yourself stand out. You cannot make yourself stand out by being मतलब क्या कहते हैं जब when you make yourself stand out through your projects, through your internship, वहाँ बातों से ही कर सकते हैं. It's a challenge. So like both of them said, be prepared technically, अपनी technology wise, everything needs to be there. Keep yourself hydrated, because you can't get up in the middle of the interview and you can't ask for a glass of water as well. Who are you going to ask? But you need to be but you need to touch on those things which can add value during those data interviews. Your internships, your projects, your career, your whatever educational career, whatever there is, build up on those, and you will need to try extra hard to keep the attention of the interviewer. He is going to be lose interest, because अक्सर औकात interviews के दौरान, data interviews के दौरान, it's hard to keep a conversation. We have all seen that. So try to keep him engaged, try to keep him interested with what you have done. It's going to be a challenge, no doubt about that, but you have to do that.
Right. Okay. So our number three of our panel discussion is challenges faced after graduation. So the first question goes to Haya. So what kind of approach does one require if one hasn't been employed in 6 months after graduation?
Okay, I'm really glad that you asked this question because yes, this is really it's now really happening that a lot of people don't get jobs right after graduation, and one thing I'd like to tell everyone over here, it's completely fine. It's not the end of the world that you don't get a job right after your graduation. It's okay. There are a lot of companies, there are a lot of jobs available, but there are also a lot of graduates right now who are graduating. So there's something that you need to acknowledge that it's fine, and you can do a lot of other stuff as well in this time. And actually, I think when you do the other things in this time, that also develops yourself as well. And some things that you can do and what your approach should be is that you can take up internships. It's okay. I know there are a lot of people who do internships in their university life. You can do your internships also post graduation, and I think that gives you a really good perspective because you've understood so many theories and concepts in your university life. You can actually apply them in the company as well, and maybe you don't know, maybe that company also offers you a job, so that can happen as well. The other thing that you can do is that you can participate in volunteer activities as well. What happens is that that's actually not a lot of people know this, but there are a lot of companies also who are involved in volunteer and CSR activities. So that's actually a good forum for you to network in. You can get to know uh, uh, a lot of company professionals there, and you can network with them and maybe get to know a lot of the upcoming job opportunities there. What Another thing that you can do is utilize this time to master your hard and soft skills. That's a very important bit that not a lot of people do. What they do is that usually the graduates, they panic, they get frustrated, they get irritated, and they don't know what to do. But there are so many online courses now available, and or most of them also free of cost. What you can do is you can practice Excel. You can practice, if you're an IT graduate, you can practice coding. And if you are an HR professional, you can practice emotional intelligence. That I think these kind of courses, these kind of knowledge can really utilize your time really well, and also develop yourself to go into the corporate environment. So I feel that these are certain things that can help you, bridge those knowledge gaps also and utilize your time well.
Thank you. Okay, should one pursue further education immediately or after gaining some work experience? Fahad, would you like to add something on this?
Sure. When I graduated from IBA in 2011, it was mandatory for 2 years to have an experience. Obviously, I felt at that time it's just कि IBA ने बहुत ज्यादा कर दी and IBA has pushed my careers 2 years down the line. I remember being there, and but I'll tell you what, those 2 years, what I've done with that experience, master's from IB as well. And then I came back for my master's and I realized what the teacher is, what the lecturer professor is telling at the moment. Right now, I'm able to understand that and relate to it. अगर मैं BBA के फौरन बाद MBA करता हूँ, is just an extension of what is just an extension of theory because they're all the same thing. जो theory वहाँ पढ़ी थी, वही theory मैं यहाँ पढ़ रहा हूँ. But after those 2 years, I sat in that class, I sat in all those classes, and I was able to understand that teacher actually बोल क्यों रहा है, बोल क्या रहा है. So I think it's really important that you do masters. I personally feel that. A lot of you may not agree, but I personally feel that experience के बाद अगर masters करें, it adds a lot of value, and then it tends to stick in your head more, and then you can actually come back to office and relate to it. BBA के फॉर्म में MBA करने के बाद जब आप ग्रेजुएट करते हो, you're an MBA but with zero experience, and what you did was theory. It's hardly ever applicable here unless you know what's the reason for that. So I think MBA, those masters करने के लिए आपको you just need some experience so that you can sit in class and relate. Secondly, I think कि बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं कि बाहर से करें MBA या local पाकिस्तान से करें MBA. That's also kind of important. I would like to add to this. I get a lot of questions such as foreign or local. And I would say if you're planning on staying abroad, अगर बाहर रहना है तो बाहर से MBA, बाहर से पढ़ना कोई मसला नहीं. अगर पाकिस्तान में रहना है, then do it from here. The reason being that if you go abroad and then come back to Pakistan, what happens is that जो आपका network होता है students का while you're doing your masters, it stays abroad. Pakistan mein to you just starting afresh with no network at all, and people don't know you. But if you're doing it from Pakistan and you work here, you start here, you already have a network of your class, of your batchmates who can guide, who can tell you about some things, who can tell you about new jobs, new opportunities, new trends. They can teach you. But when you do from abroad and come back, वो सारा बाहर आ जाता है. So if you're doing from abroad, make sure that you stay abroad. और वहां से आप कुछ सीख के आए. But if you're doing from here, if you want to stay here, then do your masters from here.
Right. Okay. How important is the starting salary of one's first job? Like, what should be the market competitive salary for fresh graduates? Serish, can you answer to this?
So mostly companies do give market compatible pay, but I would genuinely say that let's not get fixated to a certain number in your head. I think that's one thing that I would want to tell the fresh graduates. Don't have a number in your head. I think what should be your priority in terms of filtering out which organization you would like to be a part of should be what are the growth prospects there? How will I grow over there? What are the training avenues? What will happen to my development over there? What is the culture like? um, how is the financial health of the company, or what does a particular organization, whether the particular organization focuses on diversity and inclusion. So these are more things that someone should be more interested at in terms of job role kya hoga, mera career growth kya hoga. Because like Fahad said earlier on as well, okay, let's not be fixated to a certain number with respect to salary, but instead you should show that you want to learn new things, and irrespective whatever the salary is, um, the idea is to learn and grow. So I think you should be more fixated towards a growth prospect rather than just a number in your head.
Right. Okay, how should one switch his career from one field to another when entering into the corporate world, like marketing to HR, finance to marketing, or maybe HR to marketing? Haya, if you can answer to this question.
Sure. I think I'm an example to this. So I think
Okay.
I can, yeah. So my majors were in economics and mathematics, but I chose to pursue HR, and I feel that it's very much possible. There are a lot of people they are reluctant towards it, and sometimes what they do is they start their first job in something that they are not passionate about, and they actually underperform. So this is something that you need to really look at in your last year of university, and you know where your passion is, where you really want to work at, because obviously in your first 2 years or your 3 years in your job, you have to display a lot of enthusiasm and passion. So you can't have a very you can't go into a job role when you're not interested in it. So one thing that personally what I did is that when I wanted to go into HR and I had no theory knowledge of HR, and what I did is I talked to some of the teachers at IBA who were teaching HR, who were teaching certain subjects of HR. I sat with them and understood certain theories with them. They referred to books to me. They referred a lot of articles to me, some even courses to me, and I did attend those because I can't go into an interview and in an HR interview, and when they ask me of a certain theory or concept, I can't just not say anything and just say, okay, that's my passion is just in HR, and I want to work here. I can't do that. So this is what I could. This is the research that you need to do. The other thing is when you have researched into all of these things, you build a foundation of it. What you do is that you start applying certain concepts. What you can do is that if you understand that you want to switch a field from, let's suppose, in my case, economics, math to HR, you could do your last internship or a project or your thesis in HR. That's what you could do. You could take certain subjects of it, certain topics of it, and you could merge it into that. So that way you can even apply the knowledge that you've learned. Having said that, it is a difficult thing to do, but it's not completely impossible.
Right. So, Haya, some people are introverts and do not prefer in-person interaction. How should they work on building interpersonal communication skills in a corporate environment?
Okay, it's I really like this question because the common misconception of there's a common debate between introverts versus extroverts, and what they say is that introverts are not good communicators. They need to really work on the interpersonal skills. I tend to disagree. I feel that there are lots of great introverts who are great communicators, and what they do is they play on their strengths. And this is what the introverts, what they can do is that they can play on their strengths. Let's suppose they don't want to talk in a forum, they don't really want to speak a lot. They are observing and they are contemplating, so they play on their strengths. What they can do is that at the end they can add on to something. They don't need to speak a lot, and they don't need to communicate a lot. And that way, even what will happen is that they will also display a certain confidence in themselves. It's not going to show that they're trying too hard or trying to become a person that they're not. So this is something that they need to do. The other thing is that there are a lot of introverts, they are really uncomfortable in speaking in large forums, in large meetings. So what they can do is that if a person has joined in a new company, what they can do is they can meet their stakeholders one on one instead of meeting them all together. This can really help an introvert in communicating comfortably also, and it can also send the message across. So this is one certain strategy that that introvert can take on. The other thing is that if there are a lot of introverts also, that when they go into professional forums, there are a lot of people who are networking, who are communicating, who are talking, and an introvert maybe feels out of place. They don't like it. They say that I can't do this. So what they can do is they can take an introvert along with them. And what will happen is that they will have a friendly face to talk to, and at certain situations they will back each other up. So this is a certain thing that an introvert can do. Lastly, what an introvert can do is that uh, in a certain discussion, uh, he or she can listen in the meeting. Okay, and if they don't want to speak up and they don't want to present, they listen, and that will show their good communication skills. Because once you listen and you don't talk, what you're doing is that you're observing the entire meeting and you're observing everyone, and at the end the viewpoint that you give is really, it has a lot of meat in it, and it has a lot of insights to it as well. So this is something that introverts can do. So I feel these are certain strategies or tips and tricks that introverts can do to build their interpersonal skills.
Thank you. I guess these are a few of the very, practical strategies, and one can apply and prosper. Okay, second last question of this theme is, like, it's about fresh graduates who may not like a company's culture in their first job. So how would you suggest that they build relationships and network in that environment?
Sure. So this is also quite common. There are a lot of graduates who may not feel good as soon as they enter on their first job. And in terms of relationship building, they have to understand that definitely you have to be friends with each other and you have to create that friendly environment. But at the end of the day, your goal is to create a network of people who are not just like you, but who are diverse. You're supposed to network with people who are different than you. That's what's going to help you, and that's what's going to develop you. So this is something that they can do, and maybe that can also distract them from feeling that they're out of place or they don't like the culture. Because what they're going to initially do is that they're not going to meet the same people that they are, but they're going to be networking with other people who can give them a certain different perspective, and they may feel good about the company as well. So this is also a certain thing that they can do in terms of relationship building. Also, it's very important that they develop their people skills. If a person is not liking the culture, and and is not liking the environment of the company as well, what they can do is that they can develop their interpersonal skills and also adapt onto what the company wants from them as well. And if they can adapt to the culture in that way, then they may also start even liking the company as well. Because they have to understand that if they are not going to be good with people, and they're going to be stuck in that certain box of theirs, and things are not just going to go well. You have to develop that certain culture for yourself first, and then for the company. So I feel this is something that a person's approach should be.
Cherish, would you like to add something? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the key is to adapt to different situations, like exactly like Haya said. Now, for fresh graduates, it takes time to adapt to a company's culture. Why? Because they have been, they have been growing up with a specific set of group of people, right? People with similar age background, similar interests, similar objectives in life, and there is something in common. But when you are in a corporate world, you meet different people from different walks of life. So different age group, different gender, different culture. So it's a huge diverse group, right? And hence you cannot, like exactly like what she said, that you cannot always be fixated on to hang out with people with similar interests. You need to adapt. And I think relationship building is, it's very difficult, it's not that easy. But for you is, the first step is for yourself is that you need to initiate and break that wall. And how do you initiate that sort of relationship building within a workforce, is that you basically, you try to start knowing people within your team, just not professionally but personally as well. And not get fixated just to your team members, but also to different people in the organization, for example different cross functional groups, where you start talking to those people and try to understand what are the challenges they face in their daily lives. And just not only professionally, you can know more about their work or work ethics and the kind of role that they do, but also try to know them more on a personal level as well. So, and in this way you will blend in and adapt to different situations around you.
True. Okay, so how would fresh graduates know if they are stuck in the wrong job? Fahad and Haya, both, if you guys can
So
answer
I
this.
believe I have if you have a small, I have a small litmus test. If I'm in the wrong job or not. If I don't feel like waking up in the morning to go to work, I feel I'm in the wrong job. That's why I said that before, that in your internships you need to be very aware of what you want to do, ताकि आप फिर उसी फील्ड में वो काम करें जिसमें आपको इंटरेस्ट है, and that you start enjoying that work. So you need to be sure that you that if you're not waking, if you don't want to wake up in the morning and go to work and feel it's like it's a hassle, you may be in the wrong job. There are a lot of things that happen when you're in the wrong, when you feel that you're in the wrong job. Is अगर आपका culture, like they said, cultural misfit हो गया, आपका boss अच्छा नहीं है, आपको लोग आपके around जो हैं, जो आपको हैं, वो they are not supportive, or they don't, or you don't get along with them. A lot of things, these things can happen. But if you start feeling a bit demotivated, मुझे ये काम मैं रोजाना करता हूँ, आके काम कर रहा हूँ, ये क्या काम है, why am I doing this? You start questioning, why am I doing this? Then you may be in the wrong job. If you need to ask yourself this question, मैं अपने boss से क्या सीख रहा हूँ? What am I learning from my boss? What is he adding daily to my knowledge? मेरे skill set में क्या improvement आ रही है? If I'm here, अगर कोई improvement नहीं आ रही, you may be in the wrong job again. So you need to, but again, the only reason that you shouldn't switch a job for, the only reason that I would think of is money. Don't switch a job because you're getting more money. Because you may be in a structured job with a lot to learn, but आगे जाके पैसे के साथ अगर if you switch for a job because of money, and then you are stuck in a small place with no structure and everything is haphazard, and you're not learning anything, then I think that would have been that would be a mistake. So you would know if you're in a wrong job, but you need to move for the right reason.
Right. Thank you, Fahad. So Fahad very rightly pointed out. I think, if you get up in the morning and you're excited to go to work, I think that's what shows your passion for your job. But if you're not passionate and you feel like really lazy and you want to go back to sleep, then you know that this is not the place that you want to go into. Another thing is that wrong job has a variety of perspectives. Wrong job can be also in the wrong job role that you're in. Maybe it's something that technically you're not liking. Again, a wrong job can also mean that maybe in the company's environment you're not liking. And another thing that Fahad pointed out, maybe you have a problem with your boss. So wrong job can have a variety of perspectives, and you have to first understand that why is that a wrong job for you. Is it something that you maybe you're underperforming in that role? If that's the case, then you really need to work upon yourself as well. You need to take a look at yourself and see, okay, if I'm not working, if I'm not technically cut out for this job, then I need to switch my role. I need to switch my department. This is something that you need to look at. If, for instance, your wrong job is that you're not liking the politics that's happening in the company, or maybe the environment that you're in, or maybe what the boss is doing, then you have to first understand that can you first adapt in that certain such situation? Can you make it right for yourself? If you can, then I think there's no point in switching. But if that continues to stay, that if it remains consistent, then I feel, then yes, that's the point that you see, that you need to switch your job. But one important thing is that when you switch, that's very important, is that you leave on a good note. That's very important. There are a lot of people who feel that, when they're in the job, they don't feel right in it, and then they quit and they give really bad views about the company as well. That's not what you're supposed to do. When you switch, you leave on a good note and you make a really good network, because the corporate world is very small. And your perception is known to everyone, so that is one very important thing that everyone should know of.
Okay. So now my next question goes to each panelist, and like, what advice would you give to third and fourth year students today regarding the journey into the corporate world?
Sure. So I think I'll start, and Fahad and Serish can join in. I feel that it's very important. This is something that we're learning at EBM right now, and Serish mentioned it, is to have an infinite mindset. Uh, for third and fourth years, I feel this is something that you should learn in having a mindset of that you can do anything. There are infinite possibilities ahead of you, and nothing is difficult, nothing is challenging if you put your mind into it. So, if that's the case, you can achieve anything, you can be successful at anything. That's the first thing I think that there's an advice that third and fourth years should know of. The other part is that you should network as much as you can. You should meet different people. You should join in extracurricular activities. That's the time that you self reflect. That's the time that you explore yourself. This is a great time to explore yourself, because as soon as you join the corporate environment, you get very less time for that. So I think this is something that you should do. Fahad, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Aya. Yeah, so about that, I think rightly mentioned about extracurricular activities. That's where you hone your leadership skills, and that's where you hone your interpersonal communication skills and everything. And that matters a lot in an interview. Trust me, I can't even begin to tell you how much those extracurricular activities matter. Secondly, don't take your projects and your internships lightly. ये इसलिए internship ना करें कि just because you want to get a certificate, you want to get a project, सही करना है, marks चाहिए projects के लिए. Don't do it, because those networks that Haya talked about, developing those networks, that's how you develop those networks. By visiting companies, by knowing people in those organizations, by going to them, by impressing them with your knowledge, by impressing them with your hard work, with your creativity in solving problems. And that's how they start knowing you, and that's how you start developing that. So you need to stand out from your third year, not from the day you graduate. It's from the third year where you start meeting those corporate people. Also, guest speakers who come to you to talk about various courses में आते हैं बहुत सारे. Talk to them after the class. Ask them questions. Ask them smart questions, intelligent questions, so that they know that once you. I can tell you one of my previous teachers was from another group. I'm forgetting the name of the company, and the reason I knew him was through my class, and he really helped me out a lot later on. वो मेरी class में he just one guest speaker session. I knew him then, and then we started talking. That's how you develop your network. So network, what Haya said, projects and internships, take them very seriously. Serish.
Yes, I would say the same thing. Network a lot. Networking is just not distributing or handing over your resume to people, but try to know about what those organizations are doing or what they're up to, what is new in the industry, learn more about the industry. If you, for example, have an interest in specific function, check the web, see what are the global trends. For example, if someone has interest in HR, see what the local companies are doing in HR and what are the global trends that are happening. So learn a lot, read a lot of articles, and try to adapt to different sort of situations as well. And one more thing that I would say is that be prepared that you may not know the answers to everything, and that's completely fine. I think that is the process of learning and entering into the corporate world as well, that you might not know the answers of everything, and that shows that your learning curve is now going to grow, it's not going to be stagnant anymore. So yeah.
Okay, so I think the last question of the session that goes out to each panelist, that if you were to say something to yourself in your senior year, what would it be?
So I'll start. I feel there are so many things, I think, at this point when I recall. But I think the one and most important that I would say to myself is that things are going to go wrong, and you can't. Things are going to go unexpected. Things are going to be vague. You have to just hang in there, and you have to be patient, and you have to use this time to develop yourself and to self-reflect, because this time is not going to come back, and it's precious time. So use it wisely.
Okay. Right. So if I could go back and tell myself, if I was back in my senior year, I would tell myself to calm down. It's okay. And I would tell myself that this is the last year of your IBA bachelor's, my BBA. Enjoy it to the fullest. It's not, like I said, it's not going to come back. I would also like to tell myself that remember those societies that you hated so much, they matter. And I would also like to tell myself that as long as our CGPA is above 3, it's going to be okay. Serish?
Yes, I would say that you will make mistakes and it's completely fine. But the best part about making mistakes is that you will learn something from it. And that will basically enrich your self-development journey. Um, and just stay positive, and things will be thrown at you, but you're going to be fine, and you will grow eventually. You will grow a lot, and work on your strengths, amplify your strengths, and try to work on your areas of development.
Okay, I'd like to thank all our panelists for sharing their expertise and knowledge. The discussion certainly answered a lot of important questions that most of the young professionals and fresh graduates have. And I hope this turned out to be an insightful session and cleared a lot of ambiguities of our students and graduates. So thanks a lot, everyone, and I hope that we can collaborate in the further too, so that we can bring in something new and important for our students to share.
Thank you, Javeria,
Thank you.
and thank you to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the
you,
participants,
Javeria.
and
Thank you, everyone.
thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Best of
Take
luck.
care.
Good luck.
Best of luck.